Hello, everybody. This is Dave Wallace coming to you from my home here in Waihawa, Hawaii, and we're indoors today because it's raining and wet outside. Anyway, welcome to Monday Talk Story Time. Before I get into the subject of my talk story today, I'd like to share some announcements. The first announcement has to do with my first book, Angels and Ghosts of Shingles Hospital, that I released within the last couple months, a couple weeks actually. And this was intended as a lead magnet, and I made a mistake of taking a book, and in my excitement, I downloaded onto Amazon and made it available on to the Kindle, the free pages in Kindle and stuff. So I'm obligated to leave it up there for 90 days. And since I have that out, and this first book has to do with the stories of me, my experiences as a child in this particular hospital. And the hospital, I remember standing there, the hospital was in use until I turned about 11 or 12. And they built the new hospital down in Kaunakakai. And after that, I think I only went into that hospital once, the new hospital where I was a patient, only once. But it wasn't the same as the old hospital. Okay, so that's what Angels and Ghosts of Shingles Hospital. It covers the ghosts that I met in this old hospital between the ages of 5 to 12. Okay, and since it's out there, and I decided to follow up with a series, and the next book in a series is going to be called Ghost. There's a Ghost in My Kitchen. Okay, and this particular book will be talking about my experience as a kahuena and a energy worker, being called to different homes in different situations where ghosts or apparitions or even just bad energy is in the home, and shows how I deal with it and give suggestions on how to prevent these things from happening in your own home. So, in a way, it can be like a homeowner's guide to ghosts and spirits. Okay, so that's going to be the sequel to Angels and Ghosts of Shingles Hospital. The second announcement I have has to do with Annabelle's origins, and I released it on the 8th of October, and just a couple days ago. And the follow-up book, the second book in a series called Hidden, I already finished that book, and it's in queue for release on October 22nd. And right now, Elle and I are working on book number 3. And book number 3 is Awakening. This is when our Anna Blaze, the hero or heroine of the story, begins to come into her own. And so, book number 3, okay? And we're anticipating this series to go on for about 10 books, and 10 or more books, depending on the demand. Um, while I'm in a topic of, Kindle, I want to remind those of you who do have Kindle Unlimited that all of my books are available on Kindle Unlimited. And because if you're a member of that, you can click and download and borrow the book and read. And you don't have to buy the book in order for me to get credited. All you need to do is click on the book, borrow the book, and go through the pages. Go through all of the pages. You can zip right through, and that way I can get credited per page that you folks read. So that's one way that you can help authors like me. Since the book is offered to you free through the Kindle Unlimited program, you can just go through the books and each page that you turn and stuff, I get credited for it. So mahalo in advance for that to Kokoya. Finally, the last thing that I'm working on simultaneously while I trying to finish working on the Annabelle story. Woohoo! I like this light better. Anyway, the last thing is I am working on an exclusive book that I'm going to be using as a lead magnet, and this one is called Boxcar Mystic, and this is a story about a mystic and who has certain abilities, and he used these abilities very strategically in casinos. Okay, and it's a work of fiction, but the three games that I identify in this story, craps is one, okay, roulette, and four card keno. Okay, these are my three games. So in a way, it's a kind of introduction into the mentality that I use in playing these games and the possibilities that can happen if you train yourself. So in a way, I'm giving you folks an insight into how I prepare for those games before I go to Vegas. This, however, is a work of fiction, and it will only be available if you decide to accept my invitation to join my newsletter group, and by giving me your email. Once you give me give me your email and subscribe to my channel, I'll be sending you folks notifications of future books that are coming up, when they're going to be available, and whether or not you folks want to get it, that's fine. But I'll also be offering contests and specials and promotions and stuff from that may be interest to you. And for those of you who not too sure about me and different things that I'm able to do, some of the prizes that involve that I'll include in my contest are detailed tarot readings, if you're interested in that. If you're going to Las Vegas and you want to take a look at how you're going to do that, I can also do a trip forecast for you, and many different things, predicting different things and looking into your future. Those will be the prizes that I'm going to be giving away for my contest. Okay, and a contest is all has to do with using your psychic abilities. For those of you who've been following me on Facebook and guessing the cards, yeah, that's that's one of the contests that I'm going to be putting on my newsletter. Okay. Anyway, so those are announcements, long announcements, and thank you for your patience. And it's been 8 minutes, so right on. Anyway, tonight's story, I wanted to talk about an incident that happened back in 1978. I became a police officer in 1977. And after spending a year on the island of Maui to get trained, I returned home to the island of Molokai to be a police officer there. And basically, the island was split in half from Kanakakai to the east end, and then from Kanakakai to Mauna Loa and stuff. The assignment was 5-1 or 5-2. That was your call. Okay, so the island was split in two, and if you had more people, you would be 5-1 Alpha or 5-2 Alpha. That's with 4 people on duty. And so the island is small. It was small during that time, and 2 officers It was okay. Sometimes, especially on the weekends, when there are a lot of people congregating in Kanakakai, we would need extra help. So that's where I was, 1979. Anyway, on the island of Molokai, I was assigned one night to cover the west end of Molokai, which included Kuala Pu'u, Ho'olehua, all the way up to Mauna Loa. And at that time, Kilauea, Sheraton Molokai was in full operation and was really busy during that time. They had a beautiful restaurant and entertainment for people, and it was really beautiful setup. And I liked going down there and visiting. Um, Now at night on Molokai, when you're driving down from Mauna Loa, um, as soon as you get out of Mauna Loa town and you start heading down towards Ho'olehua, uh, you're going through the cuts in mountain. They call them big cuts in a mountain, and the road kind of winds through. And as you reach the base of Mauna Loa, there's a flat area called Mahana. Every time I went past Mahana, as soon as I come down from the mountain and heading back towards Kanakakai on the road, there's a spot just past a farm and nursery that they had on the right side, and the family, I think it was the Nishihara family, used to have a farm off on the right hand side, but just past them, and there's a dip in the road, and the road begins to kind of like flatten out. I used to have chicken skin all over my body, just like, wow, something is wrong with this place. So the scenario is that the description of the place is that you have a dip, you have the farm, you have Punana to my right, and then to my left, there's a large cinder cone hill that there's a blinking light because it's really close to the airport, and without the blinking light going, a plane can crash into that hill. So there's a pocket right there. Anyway, this one night I was driving after making my rounds of Mauna Loa town and checking up on Sheraton Hotel. I started driving down and came down, and my car started acting kind of funny and started kind of like it was out of gas. And I look at the gas and I said, well, the gas okay? But the lights were blinking and I was kind of like sputtering, and suddenly the car just died. And I rolled to a stop, and I tried to get on my radio, but there was nothing but static. And I whipped out my flashlight. Even a flashlight was going around, like as if there was some kind of electronic, device that was interfering with all the electronics. The car just shut down. My flashlight wouldn't work. I couldn't even communicate with over the radio. So I stood out and I started looking around, and the moon at that time was just before the night of the full moon, and it lit up the place. In fact, after a few minutes outside of the car, it was just like looking around, I could see everything clearly. And it was at that moment when I glanced off to my right, I heard someone say something that I didn't understand because it was in Hawaiian. And during that time, I didn't know the Hawaiian language that well. I still don't know that much. But basically, he drew my attention to him. And when I turned and I looked, I saw this huge man. And I swear, he must have been way close to 8 feet tall. he made the fence line look like a little bump. And he stood and he was leaning and he was looking at me. And this guy had tattoos on him. And his hair was kind of different. It was really cut short, but he had a full beard. And with this look he was giving me and stuff, he was kind of like irritated that I was even there. And he's kind of like glared at me and he shook his head. So I backed off and I went in the back of my car, and I sat and facing up to Mauna, and I started praying to God, please protect me. Okay, please protect me. Meanwhile, what I heard is the fence line. The fence line is made out of metal wire, and I could hear eek, eek, like something bending it. And of course, my cop's curiosity, got the best of me. So I kind of like stood up and I glanced over to where this man was. And here were men about the same size as him, walking across the road, carrying their spears. And they were going from Mahana side, walking down towards Momomi. And when I took a look at what was going on and they started walking towards Momomi, to me, it felt like they were fishermen, okay? And they had no intention of hurting anyone. It's just that they wanted a clear path so not to be disturbed. So that was my experience that night. And the interesting thing about it is that after I went back and my partner at the time, Abe Kalele, and I had several other people around there that were aware of what was going on. I told them what happened, and they all really, that happened to them too. So it was a common experience for people traveling this road at certain times of the month. They would see these huge Hawaiians crossing the road in Mahana. I hope you folks enjoyed this story, and catch you folks next week when I make more updates on my books and another story, okay? Anyway, until next week, ahui ho and aloha.